at the Stanley Cup. To my daughter Stephanie, if you're listening, I'll send you some Kleenex. I'll tell you something. I'm from Montreal originally, but I've got to tell you something, gang. I just don't understand how people can get so enthused about sports anymore. I really don't. It costs a small fortune to bring your family to whatever sporting event you go to in a major city. And just imagine if a nuclear weapon was detonated with, 20, 30,000 people in an arena? And this is reality. This is reality. My guest this hour is Robert Gleason. He's the author of a book called The Nuclear Terrorist. His website is www.nuclearterrorist.com. And first of all, Robert, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. But second of all, I'd like to thank you for writing the book that you did.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
So what can we do, Robert? How can we protect ourselves? How can we prevent a terrorist using a nuclear weapon?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do. One of the things is you got to cut it off at the source.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get the nuclear explosive, once it exists, and the terrorists want to smuggle it into the United States, it's very largely, with modest efforts, it's largely undetectable, and so they will get it in here, and they'll and it's, as we discussed before. It's surprisingly easy to cobble together a crude but very powerful Hiroshima-style nuke. I mean, you're basically it's game over. So that you got to stop it at the source. And one of the ways to do that is that we're too quick to bankroll nations that have a history of financing terrorism. I mentioned before that the Obama administration, when President Obama, before he became an official
mm-hmm.
presidential candidate, he became, he had the nomination. Prior to that, his heaviest campaign contributor, his heaviest funder was the nuclear power industry, and that he's fighting very hard for the United States to sell nuclear reactors to the Saudis, which has a history of bankrolling terrorism. The Bush family and their political business contacts and the institutions and corporations and that they work for, during their private lives, in aggregate, that Craig Unger, in a book called House of Bush, House of Saud, calculated, and he does the numbers for you. He does the math right in front of you in the book. He calculated that they and their organizations had received over $1.475 billion from the Saudis, and we got to get. We got to get rid of the conflicts of interest. That if you're going to be involved in making energy decisions,
mm-hmm.
defense decisions, stuff like that, you're not allowed to go into private industry when you get out of office and start lobbying, for that kind of stuff. The other thing too is nuclear power is insanely expensive, and I mean literally insanely expensive. The latest estimates for building a nuclear power plant in the U.S., one was down in Florida. The estimate came in at $25 billion. In the U.K., there's an estimate that came in, $25 billion. The stuff is insanely that you can't get banks to bankroll to give loans to nuclear construction contractors. You can't get insurance companies to give full coverage. It's not only a huge nuclear explosive proliferation risk. It has the potential to bankrupt
Robert,
country.
We have to say so long for tonight. I wish you continued success. Exonation, visit Robert's website. Watch him on there's a clip of Robert on the Discovery Channel or History Channel. His website is www.thenuclearterrorist.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rod McConnell.